Welcome all to the X-Man Podcast number 6. I am your host, Mr. Doc Coyle. I want to thank everyone who checked out our previous episode with Christian Oldie Wolbers, ex-Fear Factory. That episode got picked up by some websites. We made some news, so that's exciting. The word is spreading about the show. I'm not going to waste too much time in this intro. I have one little announcement to make. My band Vagus Nerve is actually doing our first mini tour in January. We'll be doing a run of dates in Southern California. We are still finalizing some dates, but the dates I can announce are January 18th at Skinny's Lounge in North Hollywood, California, January 19th at Blacklight District Lounge in Long Beach, California, and January 20th at the Riff House in Fullerton, California, which is actually an invite-only show associated with NAMM, actually set up through my homie Christian from El Nino. So very, very excited. Previously, Vagus Nerve has only done one show before this, so this will be our first run of dates after the release of our debut EP, Visceral. So all you SoCal people or people who are in town for NAMM, check out those dates. We'll be announcing stuff ASAP. I would also like to announce the first sponsor of the X-Man podcast from a band called Animus Complex. They are from Phoenix, Arizona. They have been fortunate enough to share the stage with bands like Animals as Leaders, Devin Townsend Project, Tesseract, Between the Buried and Me, Monuments, and many others. They have a new single and music video out for a song called Horizon, which is off the album Immersion. You can find that at their Bandcamp page, which is animus.bandcamp.com, and that's ANIMUS Complex. Immersion was produced by Matt Good from the band From First to Last. This is the first sponsor we've had on the show, and if you are interested in sponsoring the show, please hit me up via social media. If your band is whack, I will not take your money. I am sorry about that, but I definitely have to have standards, and obviously we want to support the show, and then any revenue that comes in is definitely going to help me do this and make better shows and get better guests and invest into equipment and stuff. So I really appreciate Animus Complex coming along and helping out. So this is their song, Horizon.
Just
So that was Horizon by Animus Complex. That was awesome. Really excited to have cool bands and give them some exposure. So definitely check them out. Up next, we have my buddy Tommy Vext, a very, very old friend. Like many guests on the podcast, it's people I have long relationships with, and Tommy's one of my best friends. We've been playing in bands together for a long time, and you will hear all about that. His band, Westfield Massacre, has a Kickstarter campaign they are doing for their new album and to help with their touring. So definitely check that out at their Facebook, and you just go on Kickstarter and look up Westfield Massacre. You know, you have Google. You know how to use that shit. Ain't my job to teach you how to use Google. Anyway, check out my talk with Tommy Vext. I need coffee in my life. We've got some coffee over here. We've got some tea.
Green tea. Yeah.
We have my homie, one of my best friends, my brother from another mother.
That's right.
The son of a bitch I've known forever.
Forever and ever.
Mr. Tommy Vext, welcome to the X-Man podcast.
Thanks, Doc. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course, man.
I'm very excited to be a part of your podcast show.
So, as far as I'm concerned, you are someone that I've had my eye on for the show for a while, and obviously we're friends. Yeah. But I think your story in particular is like super interesting and in a way the type of story that this show exists for, because you've been in several bands of note, and there's been a lot of controversy.
Yeah, you could say that. That is an accurate. That's an accurate portrayal.
Tommy Vext and controversy go hand in hand. Yes. So I don't know how many people who are fans of you now or fans of some of your recent bands know about your history. So I'm going to do a little speaking for you at this moment. But sure. I met Tommy when he was in a band called Vext.
Yes.
Kind of crazy. I think it was 2003 or 2002 at a 40 Below Summer show, and
in New Jersey,
some Jersey shit. And Max, the singer from 40 Below Summer, put the mic out into the audience, and we heard some dude in the crowd that sounded better than the people on the stage. No offense to Max, I love Max, but Tommy, that shit was sounding hard. And me and my brother were there, and we were like, "Who's that dude?" And then we rolled up on him. He's like, "What's up? I'm Tommy Vext. Here's my CD."
How come when you tell the story, I always sound like Steven Seagal?
Yeah, but you know what Steven Seagal's from fucking Brooklyn. Well, I don't know in real life, but in Out for Justice, he's from Brooklyn. He's like, "I'm gonna keep coming back till somebody remembers seeing Richie. Ain't nobody know why Richie did Bobby Lupo." All right, so if you know me, I've seen Out for Justice about 600 times.
I saw it twice.
Twice? Get the fuck out of my house.
Okay, hold on.
Man, how many times you seen Marked for Death?
Like 4.
How many times you seen Out for Justice?
Probably a lot more.
Under Siege?
3 times.
All right, you can stay. So I want to talk about this.
I like that. That's the criteria.
Yo, man,
for entrance.
You need to have seen X amount of Van Damme, Schwarzenegger, or as I call them, Schwarzenegger movies.
True story.
And Seagal movies to hang. All right. So this band Vext, what was going on with that band, and how did that kind of segue into you leaving the East Coast and joining Divine Heresy?
I mean, Vext was Vext was a band that I actually joined. I was in the same band with the same 4 group of dudes since I was 13 years old till I was like 20, and so it was like. I grew up in this neighborhood in Brooklyn called Garrettson Beach, and it's basically like where Sheepshead Bay and like Coney Island. It's in that area. It's a very small shanty part of Brooklyn that nobody really knows about. I think it's still there. I think most of it got wiped out in Hurricane Sandy. But I grew up there, and I was into heavy metal and into rock bands, and I joined this band. The guitar player, Mike, was my grandmother's next door neighbor, and they needed a singer to play the show, and they had weed.
Is that when you were on the weed?
No, and they were just cool dudes. Like you know what I mean? Like they were just cool, and I wanted to be in their band, so I auditioned and I sang.
How old were you?
I think I was 13.
Damn.
It was like 1995, I want to say.
Young Nuts Tommy.
Yeah, and I was really into the Down record, and I sang Stone the Crow, and they were like, "Oh my god, bro!" And then they like called up the band leader Jimmy, who's the drummer, and he was like the leader of the band, and they were like, and me and Jimmy had a fist fight earlier that winter over, I don't know, because you know when I got into fist fights all the time as a kid. And like me and him got into a fist fight, and our friend Joey broke it up, and then whatever. So we didn't like each other. And he was like, "All right, bro, you can sing." And he was on the phone, and I sang like the first part of Stone the Crow, and he was like, "He's in the band, like he's good." So then we started. We called ourselves the Dogs of War, and we jammed every day. And then we became Maniacal Disciple, and then we changed to Vext. And
Listen, I don't know why you changed from Maniacal Disciple. That's just hard.
I know. We should probably do next time I go to New York, we might actually do like a little jam session.
You know, you should. It should be the first album by Maniacal Disciple, Stabbing Fools.
Captain Stabbing. Wait, that's something else.
So
but yeah. Anyway, so Vext. We did our thing for a while. You know, we got on Street Patrol, then we were on SOU, and then we were playing shows with 40 Below Summer, El Nino, Biohazard, Candiria.
You guys got a record deal, though, right?
Yeah, Candiria took us on tour with Burnt by the Sun, and we did a small East Coast run. They took me on the first tour I've ever been on. I wasn't even old enough to drink.
Shout out to Candiria.
Yeah, that's right. Brooklyn's finest. And then we got signed to Lakeshore Records, which is a label that Candiria had put a double CD out on. And it was an offshoot of Lakeshore Entertainment, which is a film company that does the movie Underworld.
No, I still see their insignia on movies now, and I still think they do soundtracks and stuff.
They still do movies and stuff like in soundtracks and whatnot. However, I have never gotten any royalties because we didn't sell that many records.
Yo, man, do we need to make a few stops? You know, when I'm over on the East Coast,
we're gonna do this
go talk to some people, knock on a couple doors, ask some questions.
Actually, they're from out here. I just whatever. So anyway, we did the band. We shot a music video in Coney Island. It was like, you know, I was like, we were like hardcore and metal and rap.
Yo, by the way, I should interject. Tommy had an afro, and that shit was dope.
Oh yeah, it's growing back a little bit. It's just
damn.
It's a frohawk.
Frohawk.
It's been going since the 70s.
Yo, that shit.
I just decided to not shave.
My
head.
You need that. I think with that, you need to be like in the Source or the Vibe Awards. That's what I'm saying, man. You're looking like a brother, man. I'm feeling it.
Yo, you know what I mean? You just gotta, you know.
So what happened between doing that band and then all of a sudden this opportunity to join Divine Heresy?
Cool. So Divine Heresy was the big jump. Like, it was the big break in my career. Obviously, that's where like kind of I got introduced to the world. So Vext was kind of not doing anything. I had like moved into the position in that band of like the hustler, and I was getting things done, and you know, I just I kind of hit a wall where like the guys were not as serious, and then people had things going on, relationships, jobs, baby, family, you know, regular. When you're like 21 and you're like, it's like, all right, we're not in high school anymore, like we're adults, and so the band broke up, and I had this internal need to. You know, I was like, when I was younger, I had gotten into some trouble because I was like hanging out with the wrong crowd, and I was like just behaving in a lifestyle that wasn't conducive, which was pretty common for the area I grew up in. And I had gotten beaten up pretty bad. These guys ran me over with a car and beat me up with baseball bats. And after that, I was like, you know, I'm not dealing with drugs. I'm not selling drugs. I'm not hanging out with these people. And I decided I was going to be, if I was famous or a rock star, that would solve all my problems. And so I was trying out for all these different bands. I was jamming with different people. I mean, even you and me and your brother were jamming, and you guys were doing God Forbid. And
but I think Vext was still active though when we were jamming.
Were we? I don't remember.
We wrote some. I would say we wrote like 2 hot ass tracks. I have to say.
We should. I'm gonna put some money up. We're gonna have to. We should record those. We should fly Jimmy out.
Listen, one of the songs I still have in demo form. I have to re-record.
Yo, that shit is dope.
And I still remember that one riff.
Saying photographic memory.
Yeah, but some shit is catchy, and you remember it like 10 years later.
That's what I'm saying.
That is a sign. So, but that's the ultimate catchy.
That's the ultimate.
By the way, this is very inside baseball right now. We're singing riffs that we wrote that you guys don't know about. But guess what?
Before you were born, before a guitar ever laid in your hands, young man.
Yeah, when I invented heavy metal back in 1992.
All right. Anyway, so I was trying out for all this stuff, right? And this guy, I was at Purple Light Studios in Brooklyn with Mike Barilli, and I was demoing a Vex song that I wrote with Jimmy, and a guy knew Dino from Fear Factory, and he was like, "Yeah, this dude's looking for a singer." I don't even know if he actually knew him or was just like MySpace friends with him. That's how long ago this was. And so I emailed Dino and I was like, "Bro, I'm the greatest ever. Like, you don't even know." Like,
you did your best Donald Trump.
Yeah,
I will be the best. I will be the greatest.
I was basically, I was like, we're gonna make heavy metal great again, bro. Listen, let me tell you, bro, you haven't put anything out since you left Fear Factory. You need to come back. I don't speak Spanish. Asesino sounds great, but I don't know. But I speak English. Let me be in your band. Let me be in your band.
The great Brooklyn pitch.
Yeah, and then he responded. And then I sent him the music video that we did, which was terrible. Like looking back, it's nostalgic. It's really funny.
Is that on YouTube?
Yeah, it's on YouTube. It's Vex, and it's called Prescription. And it's like I was like 18 years old. I was rapping on top of a van.
I had
like these bright white shoes and like I had the perfect like that New York haircut. Like I should have. If I was just missing a pair of Timbos and a gun, and I wouldn't.
Hey man, you still head up the barbershop? You getting?
Nah, I don't. I go once in a while, like because I have a mohawk, so I go there and make sure they get the back right, and then I'll do it myself with 2 mirrors to keep it clean, and then when I fuck up, I go back.
All right, now,
listen. Yeah, Ace of Fades on Melrose. Shout out to Ace of Fades.
Right, I was saying I have a lot of white people on this show, so we don't talk a lot about the barbershop. So
the barbershop is an essential. I feel like more people should. Even if you're a long-haired metal dude, there needs to be a place where men go and just are allowed to be men and talk about men stuff. That's what the barbershop is about. It's like there's no alcohol. Well, sometimes people come in there with syrup, like and drink in the barbershop. But you could talk about stuff like relationships and politics and work, and it's just like with Chris Rock. He's like, a man's got to go somewhere before he gets home. He's got to drink something. He's got to, before all the talking he's gonna have to do when he come home from work.
Well, you know what? All right, so you just gave me an idea. We're changing the name of the podcast from the X-Man to the .core Barbershop. All right.
There you go.
Well, a man can be a man. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Go out there, man. A brother can't do what a brother can't do, man. Come on.
All
right. So, anyway, so
what do you know about?
You send this letter to Dino talking about I'm the man
on MySpace.
He reaches back.
Yeah, he reaches back, and he's like, "Cool, whatever, bro." He's like, he was like, "All right." He's like, "I'll send you 2 demos, and you could demo them." Now this was in 2005 in the winter, so this was like 11 years ago now.
So was this when Nick Barker was part of the project?
No, Nick Barker had exited, and Tim had just switched out, something like that. And then Asesino was on tour with Static X, and so 2 weeks later they were at Irving Plaza in New York. So, and I used to be a bouncer at Irving Plaza. I was still actually a bouncer at that time. So I took the night off of work because I didn't want them to look at me like I was like, a thug. Little did they know. So anyway, I came and hung out for the show, and like I knew everyone at the venue, so he was like, "Oh, this guy's like really juiced in, like everybody knows him." And then we went and picked up Jamie Josta from Jamie's Hotel and Joey Z from Life of Agony, and like, you know what I'm saying, nigga, I was trying to keep it cool. I'm like, fucking cat.
So you hadn't met any of those guys at that point?
I had played shows with Jamie because Hatebreed, Vex had opened for Hatebreed a bunch of times, but like we didn't know each other, and Perseverance had come out, and like they had been ascended to a new level of power and confidence, so to
You were
speak.
almost like, sign my titties.
Yeah. Well, they thanked us on their record. They put Vext on their record.
Oh, that's awesome.
They put a lot of bands that had toured and done shows with them on their record that were nobody, which was really.
Well, that's how the hardcore scene was back in the day. You
I
would
know
put all your
everybody
people-
was friends with each other. It was rad. So yeah, we went out and hung out one night, and and then he was like, all right. And that's when he sent me the songs. And I went into Canderia's studio in Rockaway, Queens. And Kenny, the drummer of Canderia, who also jams with us in Rebel Noise Group, he recorded my vocal demo. And the first two songs were Save Yourself and The Threat Is Fucking Real.
Yeah, I remember I forget where we were. I think we're somewhere around Times Square or something like that. You played me The Threat Is Real in like a car. And I remember just
it was your car.
And I remember just being like, yo, this shit is crazy. Heavy. I was like, I didn't know it could be like this.
Yeah.
No, but I was blown away. So when you showed me the demo, were you already like in or you didn't know yet?
Well, I sent him the song that night and he called me. I don't know what was going on. And I was like, I was living it. I had moved home. I broke up with my girlfriend. I moved home. And I was living with my mom in this like apartment, and the phone rang at like 2 a.m. I was like, my mom at work, so it was like, I was like, bro. He's like, who is this? He's like, it's Dino Cazares. And I was like, nigga, it's fucking 2 a.m. And he's like, bro, you're in the band. I was like, I'm in. I was like, yeah. And I was like, all right, dude, I gotta go to sleep. I have work in the morning too, right? So anyway. I was in the band, and then nothing really happened. There was no correspondence, right? So, I was like, oh, what if they're trying other people out, blah, blah. So then Roadrunner United happened in 2005. It was the 25th anniversary Roadrunner United thing. And again, because I knew where the rehearsals were above Hammerstein Ballroom, because I was a security guard for the biggest company in Manhattan. So we moved to every music venue. I got that job so I could infiltrate the industry and fucking learn all the people I need to know and so on and so forth. So I showed up to the rehearsals and Machine Head was there, and I've known Rob since I was 15 years old. I've been in 2 Machine Head music videos. Like one time he left his shoes at the music video and me and my buddies had to drive them from Brooklyn to New Jersey to fucking, because he left his wardrobe case at the fucking shoot, and he gave us free tickets. And I sang on stage with Machine Head at CBGB's in '96. Like I was a huge, I was in the scene where I was like I cut school. I fucking got in trouble. I almost got kicked out of school for going to meet Pantera. I was about the music. I was about that life. And Rob was like, "What's up, dude?" And Machine Head and Trivium were playing at Irving Plaza that night, and Rob didn't want to sing the rehearsals. And he was like, bro, do you want to sing some of the songs? And I was like, yes. He's like, do you know this song?
I was like, that very much.
Yeah. And it was like Andreas Kisser from Sepultura and Joey Jordison and Corey Taylor and Matt Heafy and Corey from Trivium. And like, dude, it was crazy. It was like, even that guy, that kid Jordan was there from, what was that band? They had that song White Walls on Roadrunner.
Oh, I know you're talking about
Agony.
The Agony Scene? No, you're talking about
I'm thinking of somebody else.
Still Remains.
Still Remains, yeah. Like that kid was there, and Dino was there, and Shadows Fall were there, and Killswitch were there, and fucking dude, it was crazy.
So
Scotty Ian was there.
So you got up and
So he gave me the song to sing one song.
What song?
Davidian.
Okay, you know that shit.
Yeah, and I crushed it. And like as we were jamming, like you could tell, like you know how like these dudes are like, who's this guy? And like halfway through, all these dudes, like these niggas are like, this nigga can sing, right? And they're all cheesing like, yo, look at this kid. Like again, I was like 20 or 21. I was 21 or 22 or something, and so it was
but
like
Dino was there too playing.
Yeah, he was there, and that's and like that was my whole ploy. Like that was my live in my head. I was like, I just gotta get this guy to see my energy live, bro.
Yeah,
because it translates.
To put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah. So then I was like, I sang the song, and they were like, bro, do you want to sing Replica? I was like, fuck yeah. They're like, yo, do you know Refuse Resist? I'm like, the fuck I do. They're like, do you know Servicing? I'm like, hell yeah. They're like banging songs out, just like boom, boom. So anyway, that was the day before the show. Then I went out, I saw Machine Head, I hung out with Dino, whatever. And then they asked me to come back to do the sound check. So I went during the day to go to sound check, and Corey Taylor was there. And so I was singing Servicing, and, Corey Taylor walks out on stage. He was watching me the whole time. And he was like, bro, how the fuck do you do that? And I was like, oh, we have the same singing teacher. Corey and I both go to Melissa Cross in New York City.
Shout out to Melissa.
Shout out to Melissa, making careers happen.
I got to get her on the show.
Oh, yeah. That'd be amazing. So anyway, so he's like, bro, you know what? You're singing tonight with me. And I was like, I am?
Smelling like a rose.
I know. And yeah, basically. And he was like, yup. And I was like, and I like, I've been sober for almost 8 years, and this was like 10 years ago. I have a reputation for getting a little too drunk back in the day. And so I was like, I better not drink and fuck this up. You know what I mean? So I made sure that I didn't get drunk, right? And then anyway, the show went off. Everything was rad. It was a fun night. They made the mistake of having an open bar before the show happened. And so like people were just going down like flies. I remember like, my coworkers, they had to drag Brian Fair from Shadows Fall through the thing. Two of my best friends got kicked out of the fucking party because they got too drunk. Like people, it was just nuts because everyone was so drunk.
So by the way, that footage of you playing with
it became a DVD.
It's online, right? People
You could look at if you YouTube Roadrunner United Sick. I think it even says
you just did that one song.
Tommy Vext. Yeah, I did that, and then I did the end of that song. And then I sang backup vocals on Roots when everybody came out the ensemble. And so I was like with Logan and Jesse Leach, and we were like on the same side.
So after that show, you spoke to Dino? I was like, all right, are you ready to do this kind of thing?
No, the next day, Rob Caggiano hit me up and was like, do you want to sing for this band? And he was doing a band with John Tempesta, and I was like, yeah, but I'm supposed to be singing for Dino's band. And then a bunch of other people started hitting me up, and then I did I played a show I got Vex back together to do a showcase for me, and we played with Mark Rizzo and Mike Gitter, and all those guys came out when they were a Roadrunner, and and he was like, they're like, the kid can sing, he can sing, and so then I think Dino called me. He was like, are you going to be singing for Rob's band? And I was like, no, not if you fucking get me in your band. Like, I don't know what you're I'm like, I'm not waiting around.
Time is a ticking.
Yeah, so then I flew out to L.A. a month later and joined Divine Heresy.
Now, when you flew out there, did you fly out there like, all right, I'm moving to Los Angeles? Or
I didn't have anything. I was I was a poor kid. You know what I mean? I was poor most of my life. I literally took a bag full of clothes, and I quit my job, and I had a couple $100. Like, I had no idea what I was doing.
Was that scary?
No. I've been through. I was in the hood. I was like, anything's better than this. Nothing could be worse than this. I thought I was like, we're going to the promised land.
That was your moment.
Yeah. So I was like, freedom. I was like, we are not going to have to fucking deal with crack smoking niggas ever again. You know what I mean?
How did you take to LA?
Oh, it was weird. It was weird. People were very. I'm so aggro. Well, not anymore. Obviously, I've mellowed out as I've gotten older, and I've been living bi-coastally for over a decade. But yeah, I just didn't get it. Like, in where I grew up, if you were at a bar and someone looked at you too long, it meant like they were gonna like beat you up or stab you. So I'd be at like the Rainbow, and so people like, I'm new in town, and dudes are like, who's that dude? Who's Dino's friend? You know what I mean? And I'd be like, take a bottle and smash it and be like, what the fuck are you looking at? And they're like, whoa. You know what I mean? So I had to be taught how people, like, I was like a wild animal.
Is there an art to smashing a bottle so you can use that as a weapon?
Yeah, you have to hold it like this. I don't want to teach people this.
I'm just saying, like, I see it in a movie, but I feel like that's not a real thing.
No, if you want to get mostly the top part broken off, because if you hold it by the bottom grip and break it, you're just going to have the shards. And then if you actually even if you stab the wall, the probability is that it's gonna slip through your grip, and then the glass is gonna cut your hand instead of you cutting into whatever.
Tommy's teaching me how to end human life. Thanks, Tommy.
No, listen, bro.
Guys, take notes.
Listen, My paramilitary training is coming out.
So how quickly did the Bleed the Fifth record come together? Like, did the band have a deal at that point or anything?
No, we didn't have a deal, but the songs were demoed, and then I moved into with Dino and his buddy Russell. They had a house, and there was like 17 people living there. It was crazy in East LA.
I went by that house. That shit was looking crazy.
Yeah, Gate Street. The gates of hell. No, but it was cool. You know, I mean, like in retrospect, it's, you know, I was like, there was like they would call themselves the poor kids, all the dudes that lived in the house. It was like a punk rock house. Yeah. And like nobody had jobs and nobody, you know, I don't know whatever. Like, I don't know how niggas were making money to pay the rent there, but they were.
And I just see like shit because they was doing shit.
Yeah. And I slept in a closet for like the first six to 9 months.
How does one? Is it?
Yeah,
Did you lay down?
Yeah. It was like a long closet, and I just moved into the closet, and then I slept there for on and off for a couple months. I got a job working at the Roxy as a bouncer, and then I got a job at the Key Club. So I had no car, so I would take the bus like 2.5 hours from East LA all the way to work, and then sometimes somebody would give me a ride home, or I'd like wind up having to like crash at one of my buddies.
Yo, motherfucker that gives you a ride to East LA is like,
some of the other guys I worked with lived in the same neighborhood, so it was like they're like, bro, don't take the bus. It's like you won't get home till 4, and then I would wake up at 11, and I didn't have a gym membership because I had no money, and there were weights in the yard, so I'd wake up and lift weights. And then we'd have practice from noon to 5. So I'd have a book bag with my clothes.
I love that. There were weights in the yard. You slept in a closet. It was basically, it was like jail you could leave.
Yeah. Yo, Tommy Vext, hardest nigga alive. Yo, real talk. Like people don't know. You know what I mean? Real talk. You know? I'm saying, you can't kill me.
I slept in a closet, fool.
I know. We'll get to that later.
You tell folks, yo, I'm going on the yard.
Yeah.
Hit the weights.
Be out in the weights, you know. I'm like, and I was like so happy. I'm like, it never rains here, bro. I can work out every day, you know. And so whatever, I was just like working and doing all that. And then we got signed, and you know, it was like. Well,
I have to say about that record. What I noticed at that point, because that's obviously a time when God forbid was really active in the metal scene. That record really seemed to penetrate in a way like it. Listen, it's hard. I think it was maybe a little easier back then, but it's difficult to take a brand new band and have it actually kind of hit or matter right away. And that record definitely made an impact as far as I was concerned. It was definitely on a higher level than I think a lot of the stuff out there.
I mean, I think that there were multiple things to take into consideration. For one, obviously, you know, despite any personal differences that I had at that time with Dino, it's undeniable his songwriting ability and his innovative guitar tone and his talent. And he hadn't put out a Fear Factory record in a long, long time. And from what I understood, what I watched and witnessed making a record with him was that he had been putting this material together, and he had this record in him, and he needed the right guys. And, you know, he got Tim, who was like, who was a machine, you know, to play drums, and is just like, you know, inhuman, you know, especially like when there's been some really fast drummers that have come out since then, but Bleed the Fifth is going to be 10 years old, and the release was August of 2007. So you got to understand, like he demolished that record. And then I came in, and like I said, I was like the new face, but I was like complete raw talent, complete like tons and tons of emotional baggage and issues that I got poured into the mic. And I think it was the shows too. Because of who Dino was, we got the opportunity to go on our first tours with like Static X and Shadows Fall, but we came out first, and it was like going to see Pantera. Our goal was to have people limping away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we were not playing around. There was a game plan put in place, and you know, on stage we were amazing. Off stage, not so much.
So that's the thing. So what went wrong? Why did you and Dino, why did that all fall apart?
Well, I think it's a culmination of a lot of things. I think you know, Dino, the way that I understand it now, and being the owner of my own company and the leader of my own band, I understand that he was probably under a very high amount of pressure and stress when there was a lot of pressure on him to return. You know what I mean? And
in terms of just having that band become a big property.
To have a band. And also, Dino has never had as far as I know, he never had a real job outside of playing music. So, and I don't say that in a negative connotation. I say that in this, he was
successful.
He's successful and he's a specialist. So his options were not many.
Yes.
It was make or break. And so that with, me being somebody who grew up with a father not present and grew up selling drugs to get by and grew up fist fighting on the streets, and you know what I mean? My childhood was brutalized because of a lot of racism that I had to deal with, and so I vehemently resist authoritative figures.
Yeah.
And so we had a personality clash.
So do you think in terms of being authoritative, do you think his intentions were good and you just misinterpreted it?
No, I think ultimately, maybe whatever he thinks his interpretation of what the experience was, maybe he justifies it as his intentions were good. But however, with controlling people, I can be controlling, and I have to be told. I have to trust in when it comes to business, I have a no feelings allowed, kind of business model and that's how I've become successful.
Is that how you were back then?
Yes. When it came to disputes, it was like, don't take things personally so that we can move forward. Everything is about moving forward. Anyway, so I'm more receptive to even you and I collaborating. You're a person that I have a relationship with that I trust and I love. And so when you tell me personally that I'm coming at things too hard, I listen and I'm process, and then I have to make a conscientious decision to take actions that are aligned with that agreement. And it all comes from a place of fear.
Yeah.
As men, we're afraid things aren't going to happen, so we overexert ourselves. And I think Dino, it was a lot of fear because I think he was accustomed in Fear Factory and other bands to controlling everyone. And he is manipulative, and he's good at that. Some people are managers, you know what I mean? But it's not a grocery store. And, it's I'm like a rescue dog, and I was like a pit bull that got rescued from the pound, and he poked me too many times, and he got bit.
So for those who don't know, I'm sure if a lot of people listening to this, they probably know the story. It was very publicized where essentially you guys got into a fight on stage.
Correct. And
I guess my view at the time was I just thought it was super unfortunate because the band had so much momentum. For example, we were supposed to be playing the New England Metal Fests.
Oh yeah, the fight happened the day before. Actually.
So we, God forbid, got an offer to play the New England Metal Fest, but they wanted us to play under Divine Heresy, and we're like, fuck you, motherfucker. We just sold 70,000 records.
Yeah.
We killed it, and that's not to dish you guys. It's just to give you an idea of how much hype and how much the industry was recognizing that this band was on the rise, that you guys were even going to play over a band like us who had done XYZ. And I know you guys had done a UK tour that was sold out.
Yeah, we headlined out. We went to the UK. It was crazy. We went to the UK. I did a press tour in Europe before, but I had never been to play. So the first time we touched down in London, we were headlining and there were lines around the block, and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's as far as I'm concerned, that's kind of the dream. We go somewhere.
That's the culture shock of that's when I realized the European metal scene was basically how hip hop is in America and pop music is in America.
But that's also the Roadrunner thing.
That's true too.
Them being able to,
they had that reach to get us the word out.
Well, they have the branding,
Yeah.
And I had Mike Gitter on the show. I don't know if this is going to air before that. That'll be probably on the next show.
Shout out to the Gids.
But just talking about Roadrunner's ability to break new bands, especially in Europe, because that community is so dedicated. But anyway, so I guess my main thing at the time, because the band had so much momentum, I felt like it's not that it went down that way, or maybe you guys couldn't work together, but the fact that how it went down is just it's so hard to get that momentum.
Yeah,
that
correct.
It's do you kind of regret? Like, is there a thing in the back of your mind where like, man, I wish I kind of could have just made that work?
I don't. I mean, as a man, I've had so much. Like, that's not a pinnacle moment of my life. You know what I mean? I've had so much more. I faced so much more adversity, even since then. I don't regret that. You know, I think that.
Well, not what like the band dissolving, but just the way in which it like. Would you wish you would have had a talk, sat down, and said, hey man, this just isn't gonna work out for me. You know, I don't like the business.
I don't know, man. Like, yeah, I mean, if I had a time machine, but looking back on it, I've made my peace with that. You know, I've publicly apologized to Dino, and I've seen him, and he's not interested in dissolving his grudges, and he is completely entitled to that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I respect that. You know, do I regret it? No, because the aftermath of what happened ultimately led to my life changing.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. So it wasn't too long after that you ended up playing with the band Snot.
Correct.
And how did that come about?
Well, so after the onstage fight with Dino in Poughkeepsie, New York, I quit the band or I was fired. You know, it depends on who you ask. I mean, I feel like me putting hands on him signified my resignation.
That's the best word.
Yeah. But, you know.
Signified. Me putting hands on you signifies my resignation.
I mean, that's really it. It's like once you pass that point, and it had, you know, Dino's a button pusher, and it was like this wasn't an out of the blue thing. It was
once you go slap, you never go back.
Yeah. And so, you know, that was over. And I was living in San Francisco with my ex-fiance at the time, and I was about a month after, you know, I went home and I was like, I need to move back to LA. And she was like, okay. So we found a place in Hollywood and we packed up all our stuff and got a Ryder truck. And while I was driving, I didn't even get that far to San Francisco. We drove like about an hour out and then stopped to get gas because it was cheaper. And Mikey Dolan called me. And I was like, hey, what's up, dude? And he's like, hey, man, I heard that you're not in Divine Heresy anymore, and you know, I'm sorry for the unfortunate situation with Dino, but you know that's how it is, you know. But you know, more importantly, I'm sitting with Sonny, and we were talking about your name. You came up, and I want you to know that, you know, confidentially, there's going to be a Snot reunion, and we would like to know if you were interested in trying out. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm about to, like, again, I'm like straight faced, like, yeah, totally, dude. Like, I'm totally moving to LA right now. I just left San Francisco. I'm moving to Hollywood. He's like, all right, cool, man. Well, I'll call you later this week. I'll let you get settled. And I hung up the phone and I was like in the gas station dancing. And my girl, my ex came out and was like, what the fuck? And I was like, oh, you don't even know. Like, you know. And so the reason why I was so excited is because Snot was one of my favorite fucking bands in the late 90s, early 2000s, and still, like, I still listen to Get Some, even though I sang in that band, even though, you know what I mean, like, even through all that, that guy's vocals, man, Lynn Straight was just like, there's a piece of him, even in the Divine Heresy record and in Vext, there's a piece of him in everything I do. It's very clear if you listen to anything that I've done. So it was an honor for me to be able to even try out. And
so how long or what did you end up doing with them?
I went to audition for them at the Roxy, and then I got the gig like within the first fucking minute and a half, but they didn't let me know for 2 weeks. They like kept having me come back, and they're like, "Oh, we don't know." And my buddy Josh was like, he came to see my auditions, and he would text me in between songs. He was like, "You have to go." He was like, "Bro, you're not going crazy enough. You gotta like lose your shit more." And I was like, you know what I mean? It was like a drill sergeant. I'm like, I can't go any harder than this, bro. I've been running around. I'm like, there's nobody even here. They're like, this kid's fucking nuts. And finally, Lynn's family came to see me rehearse, and they're the ones who signed off.
Yeah.
And his mom, Marianne, and his sisters, Julie and Jenny, came, and his mom was like, he's so much like my son. It's like I had a kid with a black eye. It was one of the best things. And I had this picture. So when I was in Vex as a kid, when I used to cut school and go to shows, Snot was a band that I followed, and my buddy Pete was their weed dealer. So we would go to their shows early and bring weed so we could get free tickets because we were broke. And I got to know Lynn, and I was, he always used to say things like, he's like, man, people are gonna tell you can't do it. He's like, never listen to anyone who tells you no. Don't ever listen to that in anything you do. And like that's something that affected me. So when I joined Snot, it was like my life had like come into this full circle, in a very beautiful way, and in a very sad way simultaneously. My ex-fiance, who was pregnant for 8 months, had gotten really, really sick and miscarried our baby. And so it was like all this great stuff happening and then this devastating thing. And I wound up going on I was doing Snot, and it was like, it was a 10-year reunion. Like, we were playing shows. It was sold out. Like, we sold out the Key Club in a couple like hours. Yeah. And then like there were videos of me up on walls, and there were posters of the band that I was in all over LA. And like I finally had become like the rock stars on my wall. But I was so depressed, I just wanted to die, and I wasn't telling anybody about it.
And at this point, you were still drinking and doing drugs.
And that's what I turned to. I was sedating myself heavily, and I was going on stage, and I mean, to be completely transparent, like my story is that I was taking steroids to go on stage to wake up, and then I would do the show sober, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. I was taking a horse steroid called clenbuterol, which helps. It's for racehorses with asthma. That's used as a fat cutting agent.
So you were so jacked up from like the night before that you would have to
it
take
wasn't
something?
like for working out. It was like to wake me up, and then I would go hit the stage, and then I'd like play this show, and then as soon as I got off stage, I would get drunk to come down, and then I'd get too drunk and I'd be doing stupid shit. So then I'd have to do coke or meth to come back up, and then I have to take pills to go to sleep. And it was bad, man. It was really bad. And I was in that band for over a year, and we were touring and doing all this stuff. And Sonny, actually, like, I got to a place where I had like spent all my money. I was an asshole. Like, I'd pushed everyone out of my life, and I wound up homeless. And Sonny and his ex-wife Colleen took me in, and they got me help. Mm-hmm.
And was Sonny was sober at this time?
Yeah, Sonny's been sober consecutively for I think almost 16 years now.
Yeah.
15 years.
But even someone who like him who's sober and seeing you kind of in your situation, and obviously he's in the band with you.
Yeah.
At no point did he ever like pull you aside and say, "Listen, bro, you need to get your shit together," or "Hey, I can help," or
no. I think the thing that Sonny's was like he's not a preachy guy, and I think that he intuitively knew that somebody who was like trying to tell me what to do, that's not his way. He just lived an example, and I wanted what he had. He had 2 or 3 dogs. He had a house and 2 cars and a wife, and everybody loved him. And I was like homeless and drunk, and like people only loved me when I was on stage. There was even a point in time where I was so wrapped up in my disease that I pushed you out of my life.
Yeah, we had an issue, where you were jacked up in a way at NAMM, and
I think I was fighting somebody or something.
Well, you were trying to fight somebody, and I was trying to get you not to fight somebody, and then and it was probably the first time I felt uncomfortable around you in that way, and we ended up talking about it a few months later. Yeah. And I don't remember if you had gotten sober by that time, but it was it was definitely maybe a little bit of a wake up call for all of us.
Yeah, it definitely had gotten to that place, and and since then, my life has kind of been dedicated to service work and helping people, deal with these kind of things. It's even become my job, and my source of employment.
Just the kind of sober lifestyle and that community.
Yeah, and so it's been a miracle, my life as a result of changing some things about myself. And it wasn't easy. It was slow.
So you got your 10 years?
No, I turned 8 in May. So I'm 7.5 years. I'm like 7 years. 7.5 years.
Congratulations, sir.
Thanks.
No problem. But listen, man, I've you've definitely been inspiring to me, as far as your just, I think you have that thing that a second level of energy and kind of motivation in terms of, like, I said just before about Lynch Strait saying, don't say no. Like, you're like, hey, if I want to do something, I'm going to do it. Like, you don't have that, and even sometimes maybe to the others around you dismay, where you're kind of like, I'm going to do this, and it really doesn't matter, where your sense of focus and just productivity, I guess, where you're like, all right, I got to get this shit done. I got to do this, boom, boom, boom. And it's definitely, sometimes I'm like, even when I'm working hard, I'm like, man, I can't keep up with this motherfucker.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I don't even notice it. I think that the thing that my life is like is I'm never doing enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I also have, like, I've had a near-death experience, so. Do
you want to talk about that at all? Or
sure.
Is that something you think?
Yeah, I mean, you were a part of that too. And I mean, I don't know how to segue into that.
Well, I guess kind of leading up to that. So your sobriety, let's maybe like get back around to that, but did your sobriety directly lead you to leaving Snot?
I think Snot kind of dissipated because of internal. There was the option to do a second record. It was divided on whether the band should just be, hold the tradition and play shows with the songs that Lynn wrote with the band and let it be that, or we had recorded a couple songs to help hype up the tour,
which are really good. Did because it was woulda, coulda, shoulda,
coulda, woulda,
woulda.
The band plays on.
Yeah. I don't think because I remember you sent me that one. I thought that was really awesome. Did that stuff ever get released?
It's not formally on iTunes or anything like that. I think coulda, shoulda, woulda landed in a film that one of Sonny's buddies is a film director, and it landed there. But I think that's it.
So that situation dissipates, and you're getting sober, and then right at that time you moved to New York, or what?
No, when I got sober, I stayed on the west side of LA. I was in Venice, and I went to a treatment facility called. It was called. Wow, God, it's been so long. Genesis House, and it's in Cheviot Hills, and it was a rehab for musicians. And I had no money, and so I got a grant from Music Cares Foundation, and they put me into this rehabilitation center and sober living. And then I got a job, and I got a guy who sponsored me, who was like basically kind of like a therapist, for a free therapist that helped me deal with all my issues. And after I got a year sober, I moved back to New York. So that was my goal. So I wasn't really. I had been living in California for about 5 years and just not really a part of my family's life. So I wound up moving back, and then you had. I think we were gonna work on music together. Yeah. And then we started working at a nightclub.
Well, you got so this is around 2010, and it's kind of when things were almost like winding down a bit. I guess with God Forbid, where my brother left the band, and we were going through some issues. It was just a weird time, and God forbid wasn't going to be touring a lot, at least in that kind of near future. So Tommy helped me out, got me a job at Santos Party House.
Oh yeah,
which is actually, and at the time I was still working. I was working at Duff's in Brooklyn, so it was kind of in a way like my entry point into New York. As just, I was 30 years old, something like that.
Scene,
yeah, just kind of like getting involved in the New York rock scene.
Those were good times, man.
Yo, that was a lot of fun.
We were hanging out with Dave Delzio and Chris Santos on the Lower East Side, running up on chicks, just like, dude.
It was fun. That's
great.
That
Amari,
Santos gig.
All those dudes.
So if people don't know, Santos Party House is a club with a Soho.
Yeah, it's one of the owners is Andrew WK.
Yeah, and the thing that was awesome about this club is they would have all kinds of shows. So it'd be a DJ one night doing techno, then there would be a hip hop show, then there'd be like
reggae,
Converge and Trash Talk would play. It was like,
and then Jesse Leach's other band, Empire Shall Fall, played too there.
Did they?
Yeah. I saw them there. I saw them play downstairs. It was great.
Yeah, that was definitely a good time. And then, so right around that time, then me and Tommy started a project which ultimately a lot of the music from that ended up being in
The Vegas Nerve.
in Vegas Nerve. So I kind of want to talk about that period, because I think it's something that where most people don't really know about it, because it was kind of a failure to launch situation, but it also kind of bleeds into your next project. So what happened was, essentially I was doing God Forbid, but then I always wanted to do something with Tommy, and we were, my idea was to do something a little more like on the rock side of things, and we kind of had different people involved, but we could never really lock down members. And then we eventually ended up in the summer of 2011 going to Florida to jam with Jeff Fab, who is the drummer in This Moment, and now he's in Black Label Society.
And A.L. Levy from Doth, and Andrew from Mutiny Within.
Well, Andrew was...
Well, he wasn't there at first.
Yeah, so it was just the four of us. So we kind of like this super group situation, but it ended up, like, we worked on stuff, I'd say, for maybe like 2.5, 3 weeks down there, and it kind of ended up, everything went to shit.
So let me back the train up, first of all. At the time that I was in Florida working on this record, I was in the witness protection program because I was the key witness in an attempted homicide case in the Brooklyn district in New York City. So moving back to that whole situation, in September of 2010, it was mildly publicized. I don't know. People know. I'm always surprised. Some people know everything about it. Some people know nothing about it. A family member of mine had burglarized our apartment, and he was high, and he beat me up with a crowbar. He almost killed me. So basically, like, I suffered a skull fracture. My left arm was broken. My spleen ruptured during the attack. And I fought this dude with a crowbar, and then eventually got to my neighbor's door, and I got rushed to the hospital, and it was crazy. It was all this drama. So pretty much I was hospitalized for months, and how was it? No, it was 6 weeks, I think. I was laid up, and then obviously I didn't die, but I wound up pressing charges against this guy, and then. He's affiliated with some organized crime people, and the district attorney basically had called me into his office and played me tapes of him hiring somebody. They had a phone tap on him, and he hired somebody to kill me. So I had to go into witness protection program after all.
This was after the attack.
This was after the attack, yeah, because for the transgression of testifying. Right?
Oh yeah.
So you never rat to the cops. And I was like, fuck you, nigga. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, somebody's got to go, bro. You know what I mean? I'm
talking about you, your mama.
Yeah. But it was that's what it was. You know what I mean? I think that, I'm not willing to die for stupid thug bullshit. You know what I mean? I'm not I'm going to get a gun and no, we're going to go at it. I'm a fucking adult. So anyway, that happened.
And then we went down to Florida.
Well, yeah, even before. Well, actually, before that, I recovered from surgery. This is a cool note. So my friend Mia Tyler and Brooke McLean, they found out what had happened, and I was staying with my friend Brooke for a little while. And then when I had to leave New York because there was somebody looking for me, Mia came and got me from the hospital and drove me out to Massachusetts, and her dad is Steven Tyler from Aerosmith, and her and her dad let me live at his house, in a secure property with cameras, and I was able to literally recover from having staples in my chest and a broken arm and all this stuff in peace and comfort and quiet, which is I'll forever be in debt to those two women. That's one of the kindest things anyone's ever done for me. So thank you guys.
Yes, I'm a big fan of Brooke and Mia.
Yeah, they're awesome. Brooke
actually is the person, for people who know, I worked at the NBA for
That's
a minute,
right.
And Brooke hired me over there. She's the best. Love Brooke.
Yes.
Anyway.
And then I didn't have health insurance, and I couldn't work. I was on disability, and I'd only been working at my job for a couple of months because I had just moved from LA, so I had no money to live. And Doc and Brooke and the guys in Mutiny Within put together a benefit concert at Santos Party House where I used to work, and they raised, I think, like $5,000 or $6,000 for me to be able to like pay off my ambulance transportation bills and to like live and pay my rent. You know, so that was another miracle. You know what I mean? Like those are like when you know what I mean. Those are like key. Those are more memorable and more notable moments of my life of them, like when I was fucking things up, I rather focus on the times that I showed up for other people and people showed up for me. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because, you know, it's like this one guy once told me, he's like, no matter how bad your childhood was, anyone could have a happy childhood if you only think about the moments that were good.
Yeah. It's funny. That's kind of how I think about it. Like for example, some people will be like, "Oh man, I grew up. My parents got like they count like their parents' divorce as some like awful thing."
It's like a tally. Yeah.
I'm like, what? I don't like. My parents were never even together. Like
this happened.
Yeah, or it's just like you kind of count these moments as This is why I'm the way I am now is because XYZ happened in the past, but I don't like. In hindsight, I say, "Oh yeah, I guess we were poor." But at the time, I was just like, "Oh, I'm just a kid." And,
you didn't even know.
And then after the fact, I guess there were a few things that weren't ideal. But me, I think about all the advantages I did have and how present my grandparents were, and how even though my dad worked a lot, when I did hang out with my dad, it was he was teaching me about jazz, and he was saying, "Hey, here's this documentary about World War II," and like so it really
choose what you choose to whatever you focus on grows. You know, it's like there's a book called The Power of Now that I really love by Cartola. Yeah. I even have it on tape, and I sleep and I listen
to it, man.
Yeah.
That's that dude's voice. Is that his voice on the audio tape?
That's him. Yeah. If you see Live Speaker, he does he does Q&As and he does live speeches.
You don't need heroin. You just need Eckhart Tolle's voice.
Every day you wake up, you are the most important person in the universe. That is how important you are. And you're like, yo, this dude's so... I'm like, who needs weed, nigga? Listen to this dude. But it's true. He talks a lot about socially defined identities based on the past, based on special abilities, based on, all that stuff. And I think like with musicians and creative people and like the ego comes into it. It's like kind of what we were talking about before, how like the control factor, because ego is primarily fuel run on fear. And I'm afraid I'm not going to get the thing that I want or someone's going to take what I have. But when you've been in a situation where your life is about to get taken, you're not really afraid. Everything is in slow motion. It's almost like the movies. Like that was my experience. I was never afraid. I just was reacting according to the situation, And so it's almost like I look at that situation and like, the guy that did this to me, he set me free from a lot of things. Yeah. There are some issues that come up as a result of having gone through that experience with an intimate person who I grew up with and was in my family. But in a lot of ways, I'm free. Like how you're saying, like, this is just what I'm doing and that's it.
It's because of that now you're not going to be afraid of certain things. You feel like you've already been through the kind of the ringer.
Well, I can use it. It's not that I don't have human reactions and I don't get afraid of things. Maybe even more so as a result of being diagnosed with PTSD. But having these extreme circumstances have forced me to hire therapists and work through these issues. And when I'm doing what I need to do, I can look at them objectively and right-size them. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's not the end of the world because I've seen the end of the world and this is not it.
Yeah.
And I know that I'll be okay.
It gives you a great perspective on just how bad shit can really get.
Yeah, and it's a choice because some people can go through the exact same situation and then choose. Some people have bad things happen to them and then they use that as an excuse for the way that they behave.
Yeah.
And when I was a young man, that's what I did. I was a kid, and emotionally, I was not being responsible and taking responsibility for the things that happened. And not taking the past and bringing in the present,
So,
anyway.
I don't want to take up too much of your time, so I'm gonna condense a few things. So we were working on a situation that ended up not really working out well, and then that kind of devolved, or I'd say maybe devolved isn't the right word. I apologize. That's a Freudian slip. So that situation kind of ended up in the resurrection of the Vext band,
Yes.
So
well, we just took that name out of lack of creativity.
Yeah.
And so what wound up happening is that
so we were working in
we
Florida,
were in Florida.
Then I left, and then Jeff left.
And Jeff left, and then no, you left, and then we all went to Jersey, and then Jeff got booked in a band with a guy from American Idol,
James Durbin. You're getting the time frames mixed up.
Am I?
He went back on. He just had a tour with In This Moment because I went to the show.
Yeah,
it was the All Stars tour.
Okay, yeah.
By that point,
with Emir, yeah. Okay. All right, so I'm mixing up the time spot. But anyway, we wound up moving to Jersey, and we went to this place, Treehouse Recording Studio, that this guy Wes we got hooked up with through Avange, who used to work at 5B, and then we started writing the Vext record, and then I saw Angel Vivaldi play a benefit concert for non-bullying, and I was like, we got to get that guy in the band, and Bill. I actually went to that show because Bill Four from Mutiny Within is the drummer of Angel Vivaldi.
Yeah.
And AJ was like, you got to check out my boy play drums. He could be our drummer. And I was like, we don't need to take this whole band. And then we did, we wrote like 8 songs, and then we played a bunch of shows, and then,
So for people don't know about this project, so the Vex stuff, and this actually I just checked, it's on Spotify, and there's I think some of the videos are on.
Yeah, we did a 4-song EP.
Yeah.
We released called Impermanence,
yeah.
and we shot a video called Crush, which we shot 2013 or 12.
Yeah, but it's more, I'd say, on the melodic rock side of things. It was probably the lightest, I guess, project you had done.
It's
which
I
dig. I was
like
just
a Stone Sour kind of vibe. Like it's not that, it doesn't sound like that, but for me, what you expect from me, I was like, I don't want to scream. I want to just do a whole thing with his only singing and see if I can do it, and it helped me grow. So it was cool.
So that project, kind of, what ended up happening with that, where you ended up coming back to LA?
Let's see what happened. I mean, most of this was still an ongoing process with the case, because it took over a year for the FBI to find the guy who assaulted me.
Yeah.
And then I got a phone call that the guy who was hired to kill me was murdered. And they found his body.
Yeah, I wonder what happened to that, Tommy.
I have nothing to do with that.
I'm just joking, man.
For the record. Anyway.
Well, hey, it was a nice coincidence. He fell on
his name was Bobby Lupo. He got whacked. That's really not funny. It's not funny at all.
It's not funny. That guy was,
Yeah.
I mean, he was a killer, but
bad
was
things
probably
happen
a nice
to bad people. And then the FBI caught the dude, and then so I went from, we were showcasing this band, and then David Draymond had he was like very hands-on in the process of Vex doing what it was doing, and he really guided me through. So there was a few things that happened. There was like we set up a showcase, and we were showcasing for David because he had released a band called The Art of Dying, not the Gojira record. There's a band called The Art of Dying, on a label that him and Dan had put together off Warner Brothers, and then we were hoping to be on that label. And then Howard left Killswitch, and I was like, bring, and I was like, nigga. Y'all need a nigga to sing right here, and so I was like all over that gig. Like I had hit up Adam D, and I was like, I was managing a bar at the time in the Lower East Side, and Jesse even had come by the bar, and I didn't know that he was gonna try out. Like he seemed like he didn't want to.
I still think that's amazing that he actually retried out for the band.
Yeah, I don't think he needed to try. I think they were after him and they convinced him.
Well, I'm just saying, but it's pretty crazy.
I asked respectfully if it was okay if I tried out, not knowing that it was probably already a done deal. And he was like, "Yeah, bro, just good luck." And I was like, "All right, cool." And it was like so then I did an interview on some webzine that I was gonna try out, and it went viral. And then there was like a 15,000 person petition to get the dude from Divine Heresy to be the new singer of Killswitch Engage. And Killswitch's management got really mad because they thought I started it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't do anything. I was like, all I did was answer these questions. And, and it just caused them like a whole hell of a fucking, it was just all mucky. So anyway, the band wound up, we played some shows. I had to go to court and deal with these court proceedings that took a bulk of my time. I testified against this guy. He got convicted for 17 years for attempted murder. And then when it was all over, I'm one of those people who I just keep doing stuff and don't deal with my feelings. And then all my feelings hit me. And I slipped into a really bad depression. And again, I didn't have drugs or alcohol to fucking deal with it. And so the band, like in my depression, like everything in my life kind of dwindled away, and I wound up getting back into service work, and I had a kid call me, to get really into it, I attempted suicide. And
really?
Yeah.
When was this? This was 2013 or 12 or something?
I was probably 13.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, or a little. I would have to look at the dates, but anyway, I was I testified against this guy. I mean, look, he's my twin brother. That's why this was so hard. And I thought that when he went to jail that I'd finally get to be able to breathe again, and then I just felt like the worst piece of shit. Mm-hmm. And then the girlfriend I was living with, she was sober and got drunk and then kicked me out of our place. And I got fired from my job. And I just lost everything. And so I slipped into this deep depression, and I was going to jump in front of the J train in the Brooklyn Junction where the L train and the J meet, because it's an above ground platform. Like I was like, if the fucking train doesn't kill me, I'll die from the fall. Like I was really dark, and I stopped going to support groups, and I stopped going to therapy. And the train, so the train was coming. Like I could see it because it was above ground and it was daytime, and it was like 5:00 in the afternoon, and I was like, this is it. And I like moved back so there was no people around, and my phone started ringing, and I didn't know. I looked at my phone, I didn't know the number, and I answered it. I don't even know why I answered it. And this kid was on the line, and like I could tell he had been crying, and he was like, "Is this Tommy?" And I was like, "Yeah, dude." I'm like, I'm in the middle of something right now. I'm kind of busy. And he was like,
"You're fucking up my suicide."
Yeah. And he was like, I need your help. And he was this young dude that was also in a band. And he had been struggling with a heroin addiction. And he had hit rock bottom. And I think he had gotten kicked out of his home. And he needed somebody to like help him get sober. So I got on the train and I met him, and we met a couple times a week for like months, and he's still sober today, and his life is completely amazing. You know what I mean? And my life, like I wound up telling him a couple years later, but I was like, bro, you like by having the courage to ask somebody for help, you wound up saving my life. It wasn't the other way around, you know.
It's amazing how that works out sometimes. How. Like I had a situation when I moved out to LA, obviously not as bad as your situation when dealing with something when you're thinking about taking your own life, but where my car broke down.
Oh yeah, you had all that shit happen at once.
Yeah, I was driving cross country and my transmission broke, and all these friends and family all chipped in to help me, and in me I felt bad asking for help, but I noticed it strengthened every single relationship. Like in a way, when you help someone, it makes you, I don't know, there's something about that transfers a connective bond. Even because I think there is that thing of the balance between give and take. Yeah. Between people, but there is obviously if someone's taking advantage of you. Yeah, but when people truly care about you and you ask for help, that it's in a way
you're even when it's a stranger. I mean, random kindness is like, someone told me that God is in between the spaces of random acts of kindness to strangers, because you don't have to necessarily know someone to be able to help them, and like we've gone and fed the homeless together, and like, that lasts me like 2 weeks People go and they take drugs and they go to the, some people have mental issues and they genuinely need psychological medication. But for me, I feel like I qualify as one of those people. But however, I don't take that. I don't take drugs, and I have to do certain things. Like I have to eat right and I have to be healthy. Most importantly, on a spiritual level, I gotta fucking do something for another human being.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's part of your therapy.
Well, yeah, it's a therapy of action, not just words.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, just do it. It's like Nike's, that's the greatest slogan. It's like, you don't have to want to do it. You don't have to like doing it. You just have to do it. And if you want to have good self-esteem, you got to do esteemable acts.
So do you feel like when you were at that low point, it's because you were not in service enough?
I wasn't doing any service, and I also had an expectation. I had an expectation that I would be okay. Mm-hmm. So like that old, that's an old thinking for me. Just like when I was desperate as a kid, desperate to get out of the neighborhood that I was in, and desperate to not be living in poverty anymore, and desperate to get away from my alcoholic family. That once I was a rock star, then I'd be okay. And then I became a rock star, and guess what? Not okay. Yeah. You know what I mean? No outside thing is going to fix what's broken in me. The only thing that will fix the brokenness in me is by me going and fixing the brokenness in someone else. Yeah. And that's the way it works.
So after this period of things going really, really rough, and you kind of having another kind of pivotal point of getting more involved in service and helping other people, eventually you end up coming back to Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. Correct. Why did you end up going back to LA?
Well, I went on the Mayhem Festival. What was it? 2013? Was it? 2012?
I don't know. This is your life, man. This is your life story. I don't
know. It was like Machine Head and Five Finger and Amir and Butcher Babies. It's actually where I met Henry and Heidi in catering.
From Butcher Babies?
Yeah. Who I later wound up becoming my roommates like last year. Fucking best roommates I've ever had. So rad. But so anyway, I went on that tour, and I was sober companioning. So I was hanging out, and nobody knew I was there, but I was actually there helping a client stay sober. And then when the tour ended in Texas, I was planning on going to LA for, I don't know, I was just I needed a break from New York. Yeah. And I came to LA and just kind of got reacquainted with my friends and family out here. And then I met this dude, Aaron, and we decided to start a nonprofit organization together, and I just never went home. Yeah. And so he and I co-founded SFG 12, which is a nonprofit organization. It's a 501c3. We ran it for about a year. It's doing a nonprofit is a full-time job. It's a lot of work, and we did it as long as we could. We did some benefit concerts. Basically, SFG 12 is we raise funds through benefit concerts and raffling things off to buy beds in sober livings for musicians who can't afford rehab. Or not just musicians, artists too, and photographers and people who are creative.
Not photographers, they can't come. I don't like
can't?
that. No,
okay.
It's not a real. I'm sorry, guys.
That's not a real thing.
No.
You mean so if my dad was rich,
just taking
he bought
pictures?
me a really, really nice camera that I couldn't possibly take a bad picture with, that I wouldn't be a real photographer? What if I bought 1 million Instagram followers and then used it as leverage to take pictures of hot naked chicks and creep on them?
You can come. All right. Photographers, you're cool.
No.
Yo, photographers' lives matter.
Nah.
Yo, big up.
Just kidding.
Big up to homie Steven Sealman.
Big up to Steven. Big up to fucking Strati. Big up to everyone who's going to be mad they were talking shit. Scott.
That's right.
They're like, man, fuck you two guys. Shit.
Listen, I'm trying to tell jokes here, and they became the fall guy.
That's okay.
So that organization ended up
it's just
not working out.
Well, it's still in existence, and it's still registered with the government. It's inactive. Yeah. So it's something that it takes so much time and so much work and so much energy without having a proper staff There's no way that two guys could run something like that.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, Rock to Recovery came out shortly after we did, and that's Wes Gear, ex-Head P, ex-Korn, and Sonny,
yeah.
ex-Snot, ex-Seven Dust. But they have an entire team of people, you know what I mean? And they started small, but as their company grew, they do music therapy in rehabilitation centers. They also work with Wounded Warriors Foundation, doing music therapy with guys with PTSD. So it's not just drugs and alcohol. It's like it's stress and trauma. But their company has been built into a legit, fully staffed company.
So one thing that really interests me is, so now at this point, this almost brings us up to pretty much present day. Yeah. And now you're in your 30s, and really since Snot, at this point, you haven't had like a big thing that has penetrated into where you're touring full time.
Yes.
You kind of done that. So in a way, but at the same time, you've been doing these little bands that are having a little bit of
I stay creative.
You record something, but it doesn't really get to that point. And were you getting frustrated at this point? Maybe thinking, hey, maybe music isn't for me. Maybe I should do something else around this time.
I had felt like that before the Vext thing, right? I was like when all that drama was going on, I was like, I'm not doing music anymore. And when you guys threw the benefit concert for me, David Draymond from Disturbed donated to my benefit.
Yeah.
And so when Music as a Weapon tour came to New York, my mother had written him a thank you card. And I went to the show and brought him a thank you card. Mm-hmm. And hung out, and it was like, I love that guy, man. He has no reason to have been such like a big brother guy to me. I don't know why he likes me. You know what I mean? Like
he's a cool guy, dude. And I think he's often misunderstood by the.
He's misunderstood by people in the industry and people in the media. It's just I call it haterism. It's just like a lot of people. They look. It's hard if you're petty. It's hard to see somebody having everything that you wish you had and be cool about it. Yeah. Unless you adhere to the psychology of asking for help. So it's like he's a guy who I'm like, I want to be able to be like you. How do I do this? I'll ask Chino Moreno, hey man, I want to be like you. How do I do this? That's only. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
By the way, David, if you want to get on the pod, you're more than welcome. Would love to have you.
That's right. He's not an X-Man because everything he touched turns to gold.
Device isn't active.
That's true. Okay.
But you know what though? I don't care.
On a technicality.
If you a real motherfucker out there, I'm gonna get you on the show.
That's true.
I don't care. I'll break the rule.
So anyway, I went to bring a card to him, and then in this moment asked me to go on tour with them and sing. And they had this single out called The Promise featuring Adrian Patrick from Otherwise. And I think there was a tour conflict. They had another tour, so he couldn't be there, and it was very important. And you know what I'm saying? I'm brown. I was bald at that time. So they were like, we got a substitute, Adrian. And they were like, can you come on tour? And like, I'm known in this moment forever. And I love Jeff Fab, and I love Chris. And
they're the best.
Yeah, and Maria. And I was like, when do I leave? They're like, tonight. And I was like, okay.
But that's the best job ever, is to go on tour and do one song.
One song. Most pussy I've ever gotten in my entire life. It's true.
What, you got it? Like you got to keep it? You still holding on to them pussies?
Oh, dude, you got to see my basement. I got a cellar in there. They're getting kind of old.
Is it smelly?
They're dead. I keep them in formaldehyde jars.
It's like a wine cellar with hair on it.
Oh, my God. Jesus. So that was the time so at this time, so the nonprofit organization was like inactive, and I went to NAMM and I ran into Tim Young, and we were fucking kicking it, and because of SFG 12, Snot got back together.
Yeah, so you were doing
some
gigs
Snot did a reunion show at the Whiskey for SFG 12, and we raised $27,000 in ticket sales and prizes that went directly to helping people go to rehab. So then after that, there was a renewed interest. Mikey had come home from Japan, so we booked a bunch of Snot shows, and we played a bunch of gigs, right? And then they were looking to book a tour. And, you know, I'm not really involved in the business aspect. I just show up and sing. And then me and Tim had ran into each other at NAMM, and then we had continued this conversation about doing a band together. And so I was introduced to Bill Hudson through Dave Aguilera, who was managing Butcher Babies at the time, and he was working with Snot. And me and Bill hit it off, and me and Bill and Tim wrote a couple songs and recorded them. And then...
and that was right around the time I moved to LA, so I was kind of hearing a lot of this stuff as it was coming together, being the early Westfield Massacre.
You
material.
even played bass on some of the tracks.
Yeah, I played bass on two songs.
Guitar solo.
I did two guitar solos on the album. You know, pretty much I am Westfield Massacre. I think that's really the moral to this story.
Not true,
waiting for my check, man. Shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Brother kept trying to get some paper.
Call Urban Yeti. We're all waiting.
Urban Yeti, with my check. Anyway,
We're all waiting.
So now that was kind of the first version of the band.
Yes. And then we went out. We did a couple of shows. We did like a week run in a van and did like Vegas, Palm Desert, LA, a couple other places, Arizona. And then we showcased, and you filled in on bass.
Yeah.
And we showcased at the Viper Room, and Century Media, Another Century, Nuclear Blast. Who else came out to that?
I don't know.
It was a bunch of labels. David had kind of set it up, and then we played the show. We went on late. It was like everything was going wrong. Everyone was kind of like, it wasn't a good show for me, at least. Mm-hmm. I think Tim was pissed off because of the drum kit, and like Bill was pissed off because Tim was pissed. Anyway, the vibe was like off. We got turned down, and but nobody wanted to pick us up. And then the guys in the band, you know, we had like written like 5 songs or 6 songs or something, and the guys in the band were like, Bill got signed to Trans-Siberian Orchestra a month later, and Tim quit Morbid Angel, and
he just really wasn't doing music. Wasn't feeling music at all.
Yeah, Tim got involved in like, he's always been a mechanic and a gearhead, and he's really into restoring classic muscle cars, and he transferred it into like a business where he's making, you know, he's doing well, you know. So he quit music to focus on that, and I was like, all right, cool, you know. And I had this record, and I didn't have a record. I had half of a record, and I didn't know what I was gonna do. And it's like I said, I just, like the way that I am, I'm like, well, I'm gonna finish it because I started it. And I just started talking to different people. You wrote a couple songs for it.
I didn't write any songs for it.
Didn't you write songs?
No.
Oh, that was for after that.
When I was gonna submit a song, and then ended up not. And then I ended up using that song actually for Jamie Josta's solo record.
Yeah, but now you have 2 singers better than me singing on me. You got Jamie and Hojo, so that's gonna be. Is that classified information?
It's not really classified. It's just it's not out yet. So we'll see. So
we'll see. Everyone must die. If the song
from the front to the back, side to side,
we shall see.
That's right.
Anyway, that's
hate switch.
Yeah, hate switch engage.
Hate switch and breed.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. So anyway, so I met Chris Norris years ago, and I collaborated with Chris on a couple of songs, and then I refurbished a song that I wrote with AJ from Mutiny Within, and Philip was the guy Philip Naslund is a Swedish producer. I wanted to do a Nirvana cover after seeing Soaked in Bleach, and we did that, and then
so you end up getting pretty much all new members.
Yeah, and then through Ultimate Jam Night, when it was at the where was it? Lucky Strike Live. We were jamming, and you introduced me to Stephen Brewer, and I asked him if he wanted to play guitar in my band, and then I met Dio through Bill Hudson, and Dio did a video of him playing Darkness Divides and Respect Resistance, and I was like, holy shit. He did a live video, and I was like, this is the only guy that's going to be able to play Tim's shit. And he proved to be.
Dio good. He good.
That boy good. And then Eric Tysinger came through. We had jammed. We played a Slipknot song with Eric at Ultimate Jam Night, and I knew Eric from that Mayhem Festival because he was in. He's an original member of Thrown Into Exile. I know him from OTEP. And then the last piece was basically Ira Black, and I had jammed with Ira, and I've known Ira forever. Actually, me and Ira have been talking about working on stuff since before I was in Snot, or like right when I just joined Snot, and it never happened. And I saw him on that Attica 7 was on that Mayhem Festival,
and then didn't they play with? They played with Westfield with the old lineup. Attica 7.
Yes, we did a show with them with the old lineup. Yeah, so it just kind of worked out, and then we were a band, and then.
So now we bring it to what's going on now. You guys are doing a Kickstarter campaign to.
Well, we did the debut album and we released it on Urban Yeti Records, which kind of saved the band. You know what I mean? Like I finished the record and I had spent like over $10,000 on it, and then we had shot a music video for Darkness Divides with the original lineup, and that cost money, and I was just like at a loss, and I was like, all right, whatever. At least I finished it. You know, that was my mission plan. And then all these guys came into my life. It was almost like Field of Dreams.
Well, I remember, but didn't you?
If you build it, they will come.
When I was filling in for the band, though, you almost quit.
Yeah, because there was people weren't into it, and I was doing all the work. And then I needed to get aligned with the right guys who were hungry for success.
Yeah, and all those guys are super motivated and
And so they were like really hungry and eye on the prize, and you know, 3 guys in the band are sober, and the other 2 guys just are regular dudes who work really hard.
Yeah.
You know, Dio literally dropped his whole life and moved to LA from Brazil to play drums.
I'd say this: it helps when you have help, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like having instead of me dragging everybody, it's like having 5 of me.
Yeah.
You know, literally right now as we speak, the guys in Westfield Massacre, they're all doing stuff for the band right now. Like literally right now. I know that for assurance. So we all want the same goals, you know. So we went on tour with Trivium and Seven Dust.
Killed it.
We had a great time. We fucking crushed it. They gave us a once in a lifetime opportunity for a new band on a label that, you know, that nobody ever heard of anymore. Before we were the first release on that label, and you know we landed. We got some stuff happening. You know, we landed at number 3 on iTunes and Metal. We landed at 14 on Billboard Heat Seekers. People were taking notice. We're selling tons of shit.
Yeah, I know you guys had a better debut than other bands on bigger labels, and I had more push behind them, and that definitely surprised a lot of people because at the time you were still just a regional band. You hadn't even hit the road yet, so there was definitely something connecting there, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the songs were good, and you know, we on tour we spend most of the time hanging out with the fans.
Yeah,
I don't consider them fans. I just see them as other metalheads. You know what I mean? And it's like building those relationships. It's like, you know, it's like being of service. You know, and people know when it's real. That's the thing. There's a lot of bands, labels are dressing up bands and pushing things out there as they always have. Things get manufactured, but you know, people get sick of it. There can only be, you know, there's like one kind of band, and now there's like 50 of them, and there's only so many. You know, it's like they're like, oh, there's a demographic for this. We can sell this, so they just keep redoing the exact same thing, and then it's not cool anymore. You know what I mean? So I guess whatever people think what we're doing is cool and different. So that's cool.
Yeah, I think in many ways it's kind of a bit of a throwback, maybe to the era.
We're like classic traditional American metal.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like I feel like a lot of those bands kind of went away. It's like God Forbid went away, Bleeding Through went away, Shadows Fall went on hiatus. Like that kind of style that is maybe because now you have like all these proggy bands and you have deathcore and you have. You know, crazy, you know, like grind shit like Nails, but there's really not that many just regular kind of American style heavy metal bands coming out. So in a way, you're kind of paying a service to something that might be underrepresented right now. I think. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if that was our intention either. You can't really, you know, we just sound like how we sound. It's like we're just a bunch of metalheads. You know, it's not like we've got to make sure. Like, obviously, there are certain things I can sing clean, so there's going to be clean singing. Like, there's not, but outside of that,
well, we need to stop calling it. I can sing clean. What do you mean? You mean call singing?
Yeah. It's like I can sing. Period. I'm a singer.
You know what I'm saying? I don't think Rod Stewart's like, yo man, I'm gonna clean sing on this. What do you mean, sing, motherfucker?
Yeah, basically. Correct.
But so you guys are doing this Kickstarter campaign.
Yes.
And why did you end up doing that as opposed to like trying to get a regular record deal or?
Because you just said it, trying.
Yeah.
I don't try.
You do.
I do shit.
Okay.
I'm not waiting for a fucking handout.
Right, don't slap me, man.
And like, I know. I'm not waiting for a handout. And the reality is like, look, it's time for us to make another record. We fulfilled our contractual obligation, and all the dudes in the band are hungry. You know what I mean? They've got songs on songs on songs. And it's like, well, what are we going to do? We've already spent so much of our own money. I've spent tens of thousands of dollars of my own money putting into a band, and that's what it takes. And if people complain, then get a fucking job and do the same thing. You know what I mean? It's like, that's what it takes. And so we put ourselves at the mercy of the fans. I honestly had no idea. I think we literally hit $20,000 today, and we still have 2 weeks to go, and we're only trying to raise we're trying to raise $27,800. Yeah. And some of the money has to go back to the old record label. Yeah. We have to pay out, and then we have to make a record, and then we have to produce all of the product that people have already purchased, and then we're gonna go on a tour. Well, and if we do better than our mark, we'll do more tours. And if we do great, then we'll go on a world tour. It really is completely at this point up to the fans. They get to decide the fate of this band. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And it's not like we're going to break up or we're going to not do this if you guys don't. It's just,
Well, you can only, I think you can only do so much as the world is giving to you, right? Like you can't just hit your head against the wall you can't force things to happen is what I'm saying. Yeah,
but you can't be afraid to put it into the universe. I mean, look, the reality is that I'm shocked and surprised that we've gotten this much this fast. We made $4,000 yesterday. $4,000 in less than 24 hours. It boggles my mind. And it especially boggles my mind when everyone in the music industry, people don't buy records anymore. Nobody buys records anymore. We didn't even make records. Like our records there's no distribution for them. If you don't come see us play live, you can't get the record. And then we have an online store that is sold out all the time. So I guess niggas are still buying records.
Well, I think it's you can't just look at the record thing as the mark. There's many different. Are you selling T-shirts? Are people coming to your show? Are you getting? Are people streaming?
If you're a new band, and you're trying to do this, like I wouldn't try to get a record deal. I would try to find money. I would try to find a silent investor and run it like a business. Because if you're nobody, you can buy onto a tour. You can spend $20,000 and buy onto a tour. And if you're good, you'll double the money you spent because that's what I did. Yeah. But if you suck, it's not going to be a good time for you, bro. It's just not going to be a good time for you. And it's like people want the record labels to take the gamble, but fuck that. You have to take your own gamble. If you believe in your own product, take the gamble and buy onto the tours that you need to and see what happens. I'm very blessed. I've been around long enough that I can call people and get onto tours. Yeah. But I paid over a decade's worth of time in to be able to do that. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's all the other stuff you don't hear about that I do that is the reason why people are willing to help me. Yeah. So that's kind of my take on it. And then, I mean, look, I'll say it right here. Like we got, as a result of the success of the Kickstarter, last week we got offered $100,000 advance from a record company. Are we going to take it? I don't know. But I get to choose. Yeah. I'm not thirsty, as they say. You know what I mean? Like I'm not there's tons of water here. And it's like I have a good job and I love my job and I mean, dude, like I make good money, so I earn a living. So I have to make smart decisions on what I'm going to do. Like, I'm not just like, let's get in a van and fucking go on this tour with fucking Jimmy's fucking Crab Shack shooters. Like, no. You know what I mean? Like, figure it out. We need to open for a band that we need to play in front of people. If you're not playing in front of people, then you're not going to be able to sell your shit, you know? And it's kind of monopolized. So if you haven't been around for a while, it's tough because the doors and the gatekeepers are all keeping it locked. Yeah. Because they want, you know, you can't just go to a band and be like, we want to pay you guys $20,000 to go on tour with you. You can't do that because the managers are like, what about my piece? And the booking agent's like, what about my piece? So if you don't have these relationships with these people one-on-one, it's all going to get fucking funneled, shaved down. You know, and that's the reality of this thing. And booking agents, they don't want bands to buy onto tours because then how could they make money? It's taking their job away from them. Well,
it's not only that, it's also if you have a band buying on, that means more than likely they don't have a draw.
Yeah, so but the other thing is too is it's like, you know, and you know, there's like a stigma about being a buy-on band, which like I'm not afraid to be because I know that I make my money back. So I don't care. I literally don't care if my friends were like, even if they ask me like, bro, you gotta give us $100,000 to come on tour. I'd be like, fuck yeah, I will. Do you know why? Because I'm gonna leave this tour with $250,000. Watch me hustle. That's my attitude.
I want to see that Excel spreadsheet.
I mean, I can only talk like this because I see the numbers. I know you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I have multiple revenue streams where I've learned how to bring income in from all different kinds of things.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just, you know, I just wanted to be an artist. I did not want to be a businessman. And the industry has changed. So my hand has been forced to change, you know, and outside of the music industry as a sober companion and an interventionist and all the other things that I do, I've had to learn how to become a businessman. And I'm dealing with people who are the egos and personality types and life experiences of people who are the vast infiniteness of their wealth and experience is beyond anything of anyone I've ever met or dealt with in the music industry. And so living with these people and knowing them and knowing how they think, it rubs off on you.
Yeah.
You know? And, you know, by being of service, that's the gift of my life. I get it because I'm really good at one thing or two things. And by giving it away, I get other things in return. And my life experience becomes thinking about things in a different way of how being close to people who are extremely successful and self-made and then giving them what I've been able to do, but they give me back something whether they realize it or not, you know? And that's what I take to this.
Well, I think that's a good note to wrap this up on. Tommy, really appreciate you coming out and doing this.
I appreciate you.
Of course. And guys, look at their Kickstarter and support it. They're an awesome band. And if it's good with Tommy, I'm going to play a Westfield Massacre song right after this.
Yeah, play it.
All right.
What you going to play?
What do you want me to play?
I don't know.
All right, we'll figure it out. But there will be a song.
There will be a song.
Hit it.
Poop.
that was Build Your Thrones from Westfield Massacre's self-titled debut. And I hope you enjoyed that talk with me and Tommy. That was a lot of fun. That's definitely, I don't know, I think it's one of the best talks we've done so far. We're early, but, you know, I feel very positive about all this. So definitely check out their Kickstarter. And again, I appreciate everyone for checking out the show. It's this is a lot of fun. And I have some really cool people coming up, and I'm gonna keep at it. The X-Men don't stop. All right, y'all be good. Mamba out.